This is People I Know Show, a podcast about interesting people, personal growth, and being wrong. I'm Curt Carstensen. Why? I had a realization recently, reading a book that has influenced me. I realized, why do I have this podcast? I think I know, but I'm not sure that you know, and I want to make sure that you do know. I've summed it up like this. Shared knowledge, ideas, and experiences influence all of us. And the people that I know, the people that I have on this show week after week, have influenced me with their knowledge, their ideas, or experiences. And I want to take some of what I've learned through my life, maybe the best of what I've learned through my life, and share it with you. So that's why I'm here. And that's why for this episode, episode 33, my cousin Sandi Poppen is my guest. She has influenced me in at least one big way that I know that I can share today and perhaps have an impact on someone else. Sandi is a runner, became a runner pretty much later in her adult life. And I am more of a runner now than I used to be because she's in my life. And I want her to share her story. And besides her running story, there's so much more to her, including some traumatic events throughout her life that I believe has impacted the way that she is today. And her telling of these stories, I find interesting and useful to hear because there's maybe something to learn for the rest of us. Check out the People I Know Show Facebook and Instagram pages for some photos involving some running events that Sandi and I have been a part of. Now let's get into the conversation with Sandi Poppen. My cousin Sandi Poppen joins me today. Hi, Sandi.
Hi.
We just had a little lunch here on this, I guess we're recording on a Sunday afternoon, late in May. And as we've been talking, it occurred to you that you didn't quite know how we'd kind of got reconnected. Because you, if you're willing to say your age, how old are you right now?
I am 49.
You're 49. I'm 36, and we're cousins. Are you the oldest cousin on that side of our family?
I am. I'm the oldest.
So you're the oldest cousin, and I'm not the youngest, but I'm towards the younger end.
Right.
So this realization, like, Sandi's my cousin. She's always been my cousin, but we weren't, if we're close now, we're the closest in the last few years than we've ever been.
Right.
For a few different reasons. And I guess you just kind of think of these age differences. There's cousins that you're probably a lot closer with than you ever were with me.
Actually, no. You and your siblings, we've been the closest, I think, over the years, which has been really fun.
Okay. Well, you wondered, when did we start to get closer?
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
You couldn't remember. So I remember. And this is a reason I wanted to have a conversation with you is I am not a runner. And we'll get into the fact that you are a runner. But a few years ago, you were having a party at one of your previous residences. And I guess in just kind of small talk, I mentioned I was doing a 5K. Maybe it was like the year I did my first 5K. And then the fact that you were a runner kind of came to light. And then you invited me to be in a 5K, I think, that year.
That's right.
Probably when we were the superheroes. And I'm going to find the photo of that and attach it to this conversation, this interview. And it was a pretty neat one that we did.
That was really fun.
We ran a few times together, and I think that kind of got us in a routine of seeing each other. And we don't live that far apart now, so
no,
we could see each other more often.
I never like that.
Okay, yeah.
No, I remember that. That was really fun. And I think it was a 5K that you were running in memory of a friend of yours.
Yeah, I first got into running. I do not consider myself a runner. But I have since it was 2012 or 2013. Probably 2012 was the first time I signed up and did a 5K. And now this is 2019, and I'm signed up for one this year. I've done at least one 5K every year since then. And I think that's kind of going to be my thing. I do at least one race a year because I find being not a runner, when I go to these events, I still want to be in reasonable shape and not embarrass myself. Not that anyone's judging me, but I still feel like I'd embarrass myself if I showed up and I just was in terrible shape and I couldn't do it. So it at least gives me one thing per year to maintain a reasonable level of health. You, on the other hand, when did you get into running and how has it become such a big thing? It seems from the outside as it's like the biggest part of your your non-working, non-family life. Like that's your thing. Is that what
It
you
is.
say? That's
It's my
correct?
thing. It's my hobby. It's my stress reliever. I just really enjoy it. And it's been really great to get to know other friends. I started just when I joined the Y back in probably 2007. I started just doing a boot camp class. We did a lot of running. And one of my friends there, we just decided to do our first 5K. And then it led to more 5Ks. And then it led to a 10K, which is, 6 miles. And then the 6 miles led to a 10 mile. And then in 2014, we ran our first marathon. So, which was super exciting. And little by little, we used to run anywhere from 2 to 3 5Ks a month.
Wow.
And
so you're
then,
doubling up on some weekends then to do that.
And we were sometimes, or it would be, every other weekend. And they're always local. We never went a destination at all, but we just had a lot of fun. And we just decided as we got better, we decided to make them longer. So then the 2, 3 a month ended up being more like maybe 1 a month because, you're training for the longer distance and that sort of thing. So, and then the marathon was just like we said, when we turn 50, that we'll do it. But we did it more when we were 45, 46, which was really great. It was just a high. Now we're marathoners, even though neither one of us will probably ever run another marathon again per se. But, it was just a really fun bucket item.
I have lots of questions about the running because I'm hoping I'll learn some more from this, and anyone listening to us can maybe, for other non-runners like me, that there's something to be learned from you starting based on the numbers you just gave me, the years, like how old you are in 2007. So it was about 36, 37 is when you started to become a runner. That was your age about.
Right, yeah.
Mid to late 30s, you started running. So this wasn't this is not a youthful, you were not doing this in your teenage years or anything.
No, I mean, I ran track. Very
Okay.
average. I did cross country. Very average. One of the last ones in. I just did it. But I mean, I never considered myself to be good at it. I just did it. Just part of being in school. More of an individual than a team thing, which was easier for me. So, and as an older adult, I just started picking it up and found out that I really liked it. And I loved the way it made me feel. I loved the stress it relieved. And it's just you out there, And it's just really nice to be with your thoughts. And I don't know, it's peaceful. I just love it. It hurts sometimes and it's hard, but I'm very goal orientated when it comes to running. And if I have a goal, like you sign up for your first 5K and, you have something to work towards.
Yes.
Versus having nothing on the calendar and then, I don't know, wavering. And it just helps you with more stick-to-itness.
Which I think for certain personalities and for mine, putting it on the calendar means something. And I'm going to do a Spartan race in less than a month now, which is different than, it's not the same as running, just you're running a running event. There's other things going on, but it's the idea that it's on my calendar and I've been training, doing things that I wouldn't have been doing. I would not have given any priority to getting in better physical shape if this thing was not on the calendar. So that's a hint to anyone out there that's struggling to get the motivation to get in shape. You might not have anything on the calendar, and that's what it does for me. But I should do a little side note here. We're mentioning these distances. If someone doesn't have any running activity, 5K is 5 kilometers, which is 3.1 miles
right.
about.
5K is 3.1 miles. A 10K is 6.2. There's 15Ks, which are 9.3. And then there's a half marathon, which is 13.2. And then the full marathon is 26.2. And then, it goes up. There's ultra marathoners that are running 50 miles or 100 miles and. And
you've done relay races where what do you call that one?
I've done Ragnar. So that's 200 miles in 2 days.
Between how many
12
people?
12 runners. Yep. So you're running day, you're running night, you're not getting sleep, you're not really eating well. I mean, it's just kind of a challenge, but it's super fun. It's very much an adrenaline high, and I don't know. It's just, I've done it 3 times now and it's been really great.
So when you allow yourself or prioritize it, it sounds like in different times, it's like it takes all, like your free time is totally, the focus of your free time is always when can I run and preparing for the next big race, it seems.
Sometimes I like to run early in the morning. I try not to let it infringe on family time or, other things that need to be done. So I try and run in the mornings really early, or I run over lunch. that sort of thing. So my evenings are free and just train that way. But, you have to be very intentional about your training. And I like to follow a training program and not put my own together. And if I have that to follow, my stick-to-itiveness is really great. If I don't have anything to follow, there's just no accountability. It's harder. So, but it is, and my husband has said, sometimes it seems like running comes first, but that's why I try and make a point to do it when it wouldn't infringe. But, if you have kids that are still in school, it makes it a lot harder to carve out that time. And you just have to be more creative about when you want to do it. But I don't have kids at home anymore, so it's easier. I kind of on my own schedule, so I don't mind getting up at 4:15 in the morning and going for a run.
So you are one of these, I'm going to say it, you're one of these crazy people that are out. It's essentially the middle of the night. I mean, it's early morning. You're out running because you're so motivated and passionate about it. To me, it seems crazy, but you're not actually crazy. Maybe you are. I don't know. You can decide that for yourself, that you're out in the earliest part of the morning getting your miles in because you're so devoted to it, and that's just the time you decide is best for you. Or why would you run at 4:15, 4:30 in the morning?
Well, it is the best time for me. I mean, I am a morning person, so it works out really well for that. But and I have 4 to 5 other friends who are just as crazy as I am that like to get out that early in the morning. So there's anywhere from 2 to 5 of us running it, usually together, which is really nice.
So you will run in a group at that time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a few of us who get together. There have been times, obviously, that you run by yourself many times. But it just depends on the day and that sort of thing. But I enjoy it. And the best part is watching the sunrise and just seeing the pictures that God paints out there. I mean, the colors and just the freshness of the morning. Some mornings it's really cool and crisp. And, sometimes it's really hot and humid already. And it's just a beautiful part of the day. And to me, it's the best way to start your day is just getting out, getting your workout in. And, there's just nothing better than that, in my opinion.
How many different pieces of clothing or outfits do you need to have to do this with the different seasons in Minnesota and the different temperatures? Like you know what temperature it is and you know exactly how to dress so that you're as warm as you need to be to start, but also not too warm so you're not totally fully gross and sweaty by the end of it? Like, how do you manage that? Because that seems kind of difficult as someone like me that doesn't run all that often.
I mean, it is hard. I mean, when it's cooler, you need to dress in layers, and it's really good to wear a good base layer. It's moisture wicking, so it keeps the sweat and water kind of away from you. And, wearing a hat is really great because it keeps your body heat more regulated and, it doesn't escape off the top of your head. And if you have layers that you can shed, you want to make sure you can do that. If you're running in the morning when it's dark or in the evening when it's dark, it's really important to wear reflective gear. I've had just plain running vests with the reflective colors. And I recently, over the last year or two, I think it was 2 years now, I bought a Knox Gear running vest, which it's a light up vest and it's strobe light, or you can blink solid and you're very, very visible. And you should always make sure that you're safe in that way. And headlamp, which is what I wear just so you can see better. Street lights are great, but there's not street lights everywhere. So just having safety is like the utmost importance in what you wear. You just want it comfortable, good shoes. I mean, a lot of people, they say anywhere from 300 to 500 miles on your running shoes, you need to get a new pair, and not running them again just because they break down and you can start having knee issues, hip issues, that sort of thing. Just clothes that are really comfortable to you. And in the summertime, I mean, obviously you want to wear as little as you have to because it's just really hot. So it's kind of hard to gauge. You just have to kind of feel depending on how your body temperature is. I mean, some people don't have a lot of extra body fat on them, so they tend to get cold a lot faster. Even when you're sweating and get super hot and that sort of thing, when you cool down, it's just a lot harder. So having layers is a really good thing when the temperatures are cooler. And just one big thing in running, if you're running when it's cooler outside, whether if you want to run through the winter, it's really important to start running in the fall so your body conditions itself and your breathing and everything like that. So you're not starting in the dead of winter and your lungs aren't ready for that. So if you start running in the fall, knowing you're going to run in the winter when it's really cold, your body and your lungs will be more conditioned to that. Otherwise, you could really struggle. And running, in the humidity is so different. And if you have allergies and things like that, so just knowing what works for you. Some people run better when the climate is warmer. Some people run better when it's cooler. And only you can tell, based on your health, what is best for you. And then practicing a lot, like running Ragnar, you run at night. It's really hot because it's in August, and you really have to train in those climates in strong heat, humidity. Running at night when you can't see anywhere with your headlamp on and your running vest. I mean, you really have to practice what it is if you're preparing for a race with those kinds of conditions. Other states have races with different altitudes and that sort of thing, and just training for those types of environments is really important for you to do well.
I come up with lots of questions now as I'm listening to you. So let's go to this one first. You and I were talking a little earlier before the microphones were in front of us, mentioning when your 3 daughters, when they're like learning to drive. And one of the things that you seem more aware of during that time was people running, or maybe people on bicycles. When you've been running at these odd hours, no matter how well lit you think you are, do you still you've had close calls with people just not seeing you or not expecting you to be there, and you've had to like really be ready to dive off to the side to avoid someone hitting you? Like, what happens?
I've had some, not any that I've like hit the car myself, run into it or whatever, but they don't want to stop. They're going too fast to the stop sign and you're not sure. So then, you can hold up your hand and keep going, or you stop and let them go, that sort of thing. But it's, they just don't see you. People don't. They're either on their phone, not early mornings. They're just not cognizant that there could be somebody else out at that time of the morning. And it's just darker. They just don't pay attention. So you really have to be mindful as you are on the road of all things around you. And, when you're running and you have your music on, you want one earphone in that too, so you can hear what's going on around you, whether it be cars, things around, just whatever the circumstances might be. You just want to be aware so you're just safe. But cars just don't see you. I mean, there's been a lot of close calls, and I even had one just recently last week. And there was 3 of us together, and we were all brightly lit, and the guy was going really fast at the stop sign, and he looked like he wasn't going to stop, and we were in the middle of the road. And so it was kind of scary, but it was fine in the end.
So far, so good, I suppose.
Yeah. But you just have to be really, really aware of your surroundings, just like you are in a car. I mean, very mindful of the drivers and just other people on the road.
Another question that came to my mind was with running, and like, if you calculated about how many miles you're running on average per year, in some of these years we ran a lot, and you've had an injury or two that have taken you out for a while that we can get into, but the years that you've been healthy and running, like how many miles is it that you run? You ever calculate that?
I haven't yearly, but usually weekly. It's anywhere from 25 to 40.
And you're doing this
weekly.
Every week of the year. You're running somewhere. These years.
I would say during the running season, which would be more spring, summer, fall, it's probably more 35, 40 on average. In the off season, it would probably be more like 20 a week. So it just depends. I usually scale back on the running a little bit just to give your body a rest in the winter months and that sort of thing, and just kind of build a really good base and get stronger and do less running, but still run. But yeah, with injury, it's kind of taken me out a little bit, but with being back on track, I mean, it's an average of an easy 30 miles a week, if not more, depending on the training schedule.
So my quick math that might not be right. It's 1,500 miles, maybe 2,000 maybe in a year where you really pushed it, which I don't know how to really compare that to for running, but that seems like a lot.
When you look at the numbers, it see's like a lot. Yeah, it does. But there's people that run far more than that. I think I'm a very average in my miles, but it's a good bit when you compare it to not running much at all and being a runner like where I am at.
In running that much, having it be a regular part of routine, what does that do to your body, for your body? How does it make it stronger, healthier? And in what ways has it maybe made you a little more banged up than you would be if you're just kind of hanging around the house a little more often?
I think health benefits has been great for your heart, obviously. It is overall health. I mean, you have to be mindful of what your body is telling you. I mean, if something hurts and then it's painful, you need to cut back on that. If it's just muscle soreness and that sort of thing, and it's something that'll go away. And there's always aches and pains when you're starting to run. I mean, there's a lot of programs out there that you'll do, I can't remember how they say it, but it's like a couch potato. It's a walk around program where you walk for a minute, run for 2. I mean, anything, it can get you going. So, I mean, you can just start slow and build and that sort of thing and see how you feel. But as you're just going through it, I mean, I feel a lot stronger health-wise. I feel like I'm in better shape. Clothes fit better. You just feel better about yourself because you're doing something, whether it be running, walking, swimming, whatever. But running has been the thing that I have chosen that I really enjoy. And I mean, you have to do other things other than just run. You need to lift weights. You need to work on your core, which for a runner, your core is like ultimate. I mean, if you don't have a strong core, you can't support yourself. Abdominal, right. Your abdominals. But having a strong core makes your lower back stronger. And it helps because you need to use your core when you run. And posture is really good when you run. If you don't have good posture, if your arms are flailing all over and your legs are flailing, I mean, you're wasting energy, more chance for injury. It's just paying attention to how your body feels and learning what good posture is. There's a lot of running stores that can help you with that kind of thing, and a lot of books, and I'm sure Google has a lot of things out there too, of learning what looks good. A lot of injury prevention information is out there, which I have gleaned a lot of information from myself. And just the injuries I've had, I've learned better ways to do what I do to not risk injury again. And I mean, for me, running is great in so many ways. Mentally, I mean, it just, when you're stressed out, when you're upset, when you have a bad day, when you're just happy, it's just something that feels good to me. And I enjoy doing it for so many of those reasons, as well as the health benefits. I mean, both sides of my family with my folks the health isn't great, and knowing that I can do something better for me. And when you're exercising, whether it be running or biking or walking or whatever, you want to eat better mostly. And it really helps with all of that. I mean, you want to put good in, you're doing something good for yourself, you're being positive, and it helps you to kind of get in a good place in that way as well.
When you're running, you say it is good for your mind. But you said sometimes you always listen to music or have something in one ear, or sometimes you just be alone with your thoughts for as many miles as it takes you to clear your head and just take in nature.
Well, most of the time I have music. I listen to all different kinds, whatever's motivating. But I'm to my thoughts as the music is playing. I mean, it's just kind of time for me to just think about all different kinds of things, reflect on things happening. I think a lot about my kids, my husband, his family, different friends, things that people are going through. I use it to pray sometimes. It's just kind of that time that you can just be alone with your thoughts and just kind of talk things through sometimes. Maybe if you're having a bad day and you just need to process things a little bit, it just really clears the mind in a lot of ways for me. Sometimes I think about nothing and I'm just thinking about, do I have good posture? Is my footfall right? Are my arms in the right place? How am I feeling? I really listen to myself. And a friend of mine who has done many, many marathons has often said, you need to listen to your body. And if you don't pay attention to it, you will get hurt, And I think that's with anything. But I mean, just being in tune. When I ran my first marathon, he had told me, you should run it without music, because there's so much spectatorship, and the fact that you can, hear them, cheering you on and just taking in all that's around you, and enjoying it for that. And I did. I ran 26.2 miles with no music. And while some people are like, oh my gosh, how could you do that? Because how do you stay focused and, keep running? Because music will help propel you forward, because you're running with the beat and that sort of thing. But I just took in everything. In the marathon I ran, there was so much spectatorship that you could not, it just was always somebody there cheering you on, or music being played for the group to hear and that sort of thing. So it was really, really fun to do that. And there are other races I've run without music just because.
Where did you run your marathon at?
I did the Twin Cities Marathon in 2014.
And at what point, if at all, did you really feel the weight of the 26.2 miles? Like when does that get difficult for someone running their first marathon? Like you're a runner that trained a lot, but still I'd imagine at some point it becomes like, ooh, this is a long ways.
Mile 21 is the hardest because you usually hit a wall. And in the Twin Cities Marathon, they actually have a wall because it's kind of a play on words, I suppose, that everybody hits at 20. And it was a hill as well. So it gets, it's a lot harder, but usually mile 21 is hard. And then once you get through that, and you train for those things and you're building your endurance. So when you run on tired legs, so when you get to that point, you're able to push through whether you have to walk a little bit or slow your pace down or whatever it is you need to do to get yourself going. You can, continue on to finish because the end is close by. It's only 5 miles away.
When 5 miles probably seems like nothing the way you've been training leading up to that.
When you're training for a marathon, 5 miles is really nothing. I mean, it's just like a training run, very short training run.
2014, I think that the year that I did the 10-mile Goldies run with you. That to me sounds right.
Yes, I believe that is.
And I've run several 5Ks, probably about 10 or 12, I think, in these years since 2012. That was the one time I did something that wasn't a 5K, the 10-mile. And I remember, and I used this as like a positive memory of me pushing myself beyond things I thought I was capable of doing. Like the first episode of the podcast with my friend George is kind of all about things that I've done with him that have pushed me beyond what I thought I was capable of doing. But I remember that. I remember specifically, for some reason, I was in a bowling league back then, and I had like the best bowling game of my life. I was like a 250, 260 something, and I'm not really a good bowler. So this came out of nowhere. And I think that was the night where I decided to kind of, in my mind, accept your invitation. You told me about this Goldies run and 10 miles, you want to do it. And then I realized I did way better at bowling than I ever thought I would. And I thought, you know what? I should just do this 10 mile and see what happens. So then that might have been a 2-month training. And I think a lot of that, like the first month, some of that was indoors because this is an April run. So starting in February, probably training 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever it was. But by the end of it, I think the longest training runs I ended up doing was about 7 miles, which was a lot for me.
Right.
And then the day of the 10 mile, I completed the 10 mile. I probably walked about a mile of it. I was still not in the best shape, but I finished in like an hour 27, which is under like less than 10 minutes.
That's a good
mile.
time.
For me, not being a runner, I'm not a runner, but I was able to take on this challenge. That was because of your presence in my life as a runner suggesting this thing. I haven't done it since. I'm not in a big hurry to do that anytime soon. I probably would in the right circumstance, but to know that I've done it was cool. But it's that experience when my brother Chuck says, do you want to do the Spartan race? He did it last year knowing that, okay, this other thing I did because of Sandy, I will try it. And now I'm preparing for it. And I'm sure I'll learn some things that day on the 22nd of June. Of why I'm not quite prepared for this and no idea what it's going to be like. But it's just the idea that I can put this thing on my calendar and work my way up to having a chance to do something beyond whatever thought I was capable of doing. And I like that. I like that running has that ability, just the different distances and frequencies. So for anyone that hasn't been a runner, you don't have to be a runner to go for a run. And I think I can be the epitome of that. And it's something good to be learned. I think that the time with your thoughts or whatever it is you want to do while you're running, I think it's a really neat experience. And you are a great example of that.
Well, thank you. And I just want to say, you are a runner. You are. Even though you might be more of a casual runner.
You're probably right.
You are a runner.
Dang it. It's the language that we use and describe ourselves.
Because I was told that now I'm a marathoner, and I'm like, I have run one marathon, and I will probably not run another one again, but I am a marathoner, and I will always be that because I ran one. So you have run plenty of races. So you are a runner, and you're training for great things. So
that's an excellent point.
Very proud of you.
I try to insist on other people that the language that you use to describe the things that you're doing or not doing will kind of be indicative of what your results will be. So maybe if I start calling myself a runner,
Yes.
I'll be a better and more competitive and healthier and whatever else to describe an actual runner instead of me saying I'm not a runner and then going out and running. Yes.
That's right. And when you finish your Spartan, you will be a Spartan.
I will be.
You will be.
There's a lot of burpees involved there. If you don't complete the obstacles, I guess you have to do a lot of burpees.
Yes, 25.
Well, Chuck said it's 30. But
30.
Either way, I've got some work to do in the next month. But that's what I need. I'm a bit of a procrastinator, and I need the thing on my calendar. And I'm not gonna. I may not be the best Spartaner that day, whatever you want to call it, but I will try to at least be somewhat competitive. And it's because of your influence. I don't know how to gauge it exactly, but you've influenced me in that way. So I thank you.
Glad. You're welcome.
And that's a part of my life that I want to share within the podcast. So I think I have a better understanding of your mission as a runner. Anything else about running that you don't think you've talked about yet, of how it's been, whatever it has been to you? Any parting thoughts on that part of the conversation?
Well, I just think in just the years that I've been running, I mean, I never considered myself a runner either. I enjoyed it. It was something that I just wanted to do, and I had fun with friends. But the one of the highlights is there are people that I work with and that are just in my circle of influence who have never run, maybe walked, but they're doing 5Ks now, and we're doing them together, and they're really enjoying them, and it has grown over the last couple of years. And it's just so fun to see other friends and family see you do it. And it's nothing special. I mean, it's just because I enjoy it. I like to do it, but they see that and they want to try it. And then they try it and they really like it. And it's a healthy thing, whether you're walking a whole 5K or running or walk running or whatever it is. It's just been very fun to see it be inspiring to others. So just for them want to try it. And, some of them I do it just because we're friends and we just all want to hang out together, or the after party afterwards and just doing something together. But it's been just fun. And I don't mean it in any kind of boastful way, but it's just been fun to know that I have impacted someone to be healthier and to try something different and new that they maybe would never have tried before.
You were all capable of filling our calendar with all kinds of things. To occasionally put some health objectives on the calendar and find a way to fulfill them is definitely a good thing. And thinking about that now, you and I have the Minnesota State Fair Milk Run. I've done it 2 or 3 times, and I don't know that you did it last year.
I didn't.
But the previous year, perhaps, or the previous time I was there, I remember we were both there. I don't know if we even showed up at the same time or together, but we found ourselves in like the last 10th or 2/10 of a mile. You found me, I think, and we ran side by side, and it's fun. It's not like, I'm sure the actual marathon has people across the whole 26 miles that are encouraging you. At a lot of these 5Ks, there's just a few spots, but especially the end where there's people encouraging you, and it's kind of exciting. I remember running towards the finish line, and you were right next to me, and that was a good memory of how pretty sure we didn't really see much of each other at all at the start of that race, but how we found each other, or you found me right at the end, was a neat little memory from running.
And as I recall, I believe you still beat me.
Did I?
Well, you did. You are a tad bit faster.
Maybe, and I don't like to lose, so if I could beat you at least, that's beating someone.
That's good. Yes.
So the running was a way you've impacted me that I want to talk about, but as we kind of got into earlier, we're at the last few years, we're as close now as we've ever been. And I don't know that we're still that close. And I think maybe in part I think it's hard to get close to someone without really knowing them. And there's some things from your life that I'm aware of that you and I have not talked about. And I don't know how often you talk about these things. And we'll get into however much you want to get into. But I guess one of my first memories of you, and did you ever babysit me?
I probably did.
Probably did.
Yes.
So you said you're 49, I'm 36, so 13-year difference about, your birthday's when?
October.
Okay, so I don't know how the math works on this. You're probably 12 and a half years older than me, perhaps, something like that. Anyhow, 12 and a half, 13 and a half years older than me. You were, I know, in your elder years of high school, and I would have been just a little kid, but maybe my first real awareness of you is that Sandi, my cousin, was in some pretty bad car accident. And I guess before we turned on the recording, you were telling me that in the past people have asked you to share this story and you never really did in a big group. And I don't know that much about it, but I know it left you with some injuries that have, or like I know you have one eye at this point, and that I don't know. We never talked about it. So what are you willing to share about that and what it was like at that point in your life? Because I know it kept you in the hospital for a while, but I don't even know how long.
Yeah, so I was my senior year, so it was 1988, and it was May. It was right before graduation, and I was dating someone, and I just decided that I wanted to still have free time, and I had met someone, just another friend from another town, and we had gone out on a date, I guess if you want to call it that. And we were coming home, and it was dark, and we had taken a back road, and a drunk driver hit our car. And they were supposed to stop and didn't. And they hit our car. We were in a Camaro, and our cars slid together and went over a kitty corner in a ditch. And the other driver flipped over in his car, and he ended up getting killed. And he ended up getting killed, and his wife was severely injured, a lot of brain injury. And then the friend I was with, he had some broken bones in his legs and things. And I had lost my left eye. My scalp was cut severely from about half my head. I had broken bones, broken jaw. My pelvis was damaged. My sacrum was crushed. It was pretty severe. And I was taken to the local hospital, and they couldn't do much for me. So they had taken us to St. Cloud. And I think I was in surgery for 13 hours. They were putting me back together. They didn't have a picture or anything to work off of, but it just seems like from what I looked like before to what I look like now, it's pretty similar. I have some scars, and I don't really see them anymore. I was able to get a prosthetic eye, and most people can't tell unless, sometimes you can tell more than others, but it just depends.
They look the same. It's just, sometimes I catch myself looking at the wrong eye and not making wrong eye contact because I don't know.
Right.
They both look real enough. That I don't really know what to look at.
Well, and sometimes people just think it's a lazy eye,
I suppose.
For not knowing anything.
Yeah.
But, so I was in the hospital, surgery for 13 hours in the hospital for about 2 weeks. I was able to attend my graduation in a wheelchair. My sister had pushed me in, and it was a very emotional time. I had a couple other classmates that, had different illnesses and things, and we all made it. So it was kind of a very, I can't think of the right word, but it was just a very emotional time for all of us there that day. But I ended up healing from my injuries. I was delayed in going to college a whole year. I was home in a hospital bed for quite a long time because I couldn't get up the stairs to my own bed. And I was on crutches. I couldn't walk for quite some time because my pelvis was broken. And so the healing took a long time. So I delayed in going to school, and then I moved to the cities and, just started life again, I guess, and doing what I had set out to do. And then I'm not sure how best to say it. So before I had the accident, my boyfriend at the time, we ended up getting back together after that. And then we parted ways. Just different choices in life and that sort of thing. No big deal in that way. But then we both married, had families, that sort of thing. And then just through different circumstances in both of our lives, we ended up getting back together, and we are married. I'm married now to my high school sweetheart. And we have, I think, a wonderful family. And we went through a lot together at that time. He was with me the whole time. I was in my recovery at home, and even for a while when I went off to school. And it's just neat how things have kind of come around full circle in that way. But it was really hard to heal from a lot of I had a lot of self-doubt about how I looked. Because I only had one eye, and I had scars all over my face, and I was the kind of person who liked her hair done right and her makeup to look good. And, maybe it was vain for being a senior, young person. I don't know. But, he always accepted me for how I looked. He didn't always look at the outside. He saw the inside. And even though the outside wasn't bad, I felt when I looked in the mirror, I was looking at somebody else, by how changed I felt I looked. But, once the swelling goes down and everything heals, you look better, more normal. More yourself, I guess. And I have had to learn, it took a long time to learn seeing with one eye. You don't have depth of perception of depth. It's hard to judge your distance when you're walking, when you're driving, parking, and just generally speaking, I don't have very good balance. I run into things, and it's kind of embarrassing. But there's just been different things like that that have happened along the way. But then other things, you just compensate and you're able to do better, work your way through the situations. And for me, riding a bike isn't great because I don't have balance. So I don't like to do that much anymore. And running was easy because it was just me and I didn't need anything other than just me and a pair of shoes. And so it was something that it was easy for me to do in doing that. But with my accident, I've learned in the marathon that I ran in 2014, my hamstring blew, which I didn't know. I thought it was a really bad Charlie horse about halfway through. And I found out later that I actually snapped my hamstring and it rolled up like a rubber band. And I ran on that, but we have 3 hamstring muscles, so to speak. And so I was still operating on a few cylinders, so to speak, to get me across the start line. But it wasn't until that was October, and it wasn't until late November that I had an MRI to find out why I was still in pain. And I found out that my hamstring had snapped, and the only way to fix it is either to have surgery or deal with it the way it was. And I was not going to deal with it because it hurt to sit and do all different kinds of things.
If anyone hears some noise in the background here, Sandi has an Apple Watch, which she does not know how to use, that is ringing, and she doesn't know how to stop it. So we'll deal with
all
it.
Right.
This
All
is
done
reality.
Now. Sorry
Okay.
for the interruption. So anyway, I found out I had an injury. I found out my hamstring was damaged, and I decided I had to wait until February to get it fixed, just due to the surgeon I wanted. And then I went through quite a long recovery. I mean, the surgery was easy. I was out for 6 weeks, I believe. Leg brace, couldn't move it, locked up. It took me 8 months to get back into running again, and I was able to. And then this past June, a year ago June, almost now, I had ankle surgery. I shredded my peroneal tendons, and my ankle joint was really loose. And after going through why, because there wasn't an actual injury that happened that caused it per se, but from my accident back in 1988, my right side was very compromised in the accident, and which is where my sacrum was crushed and my pelvis was damaged and all that kind of thing, that it was just my weak side. And over the years, I never even thought about it being weaker. I mean, it just didn't occur to me that it could be. So my injuries have all been right-sided and have all been related in one way or to another. My ankle, actually, we figured out was related to probably back to my accident, just rolling your ankle and just the stress that was put on all those things over the years. And then when you're running, you're pounding the ground and just the repetitiveness of everything. It just kind of caught up to me after a while. So even though things happened, I've still been cleared to run and do things, and I've listened very intently to everything that I've been told about how to recover and return to run, and I'm back in the game again. So it's been a long journey, and it's just interesting to see how some of the injuries I've had have circled back to that day back in 1988 when I had my car accident. So, and a lot of life has happened between then and now, and so it's been a journey in that way.
I don't know if you look at your life this way, but as you look back on your life, would you put that accident as like the biggest challenge you've had to overcome or thing you've had to deal with? Or is it one of the other things that's happened that maybe would even have been more impactful to you?
I think it's probably one of the biggest at that time in my life. Because it was just, my hard thing was dealing with how I looked, and as a young girl, looks are important.
What do you think now about how you look?
I like how I look now. No, I like how I look now. I think I look good. I mean, I try and take care of myself, health, food, exercise, and that sort of thing. But, just back then it was really hard for me to accept myself, because when I looked in the mirror, it was very hard to look what was looking back at me. And just, I never was bitter about being hit and being injured. I never was angry at anybody at all, which I guess I just attribute to my relationship with God, because I'd never had any angry feelings, and it didn't bother me. in that way, I mean, I was sad for the people and the loss of their life and the injury that the woman had. The person that I was with, it was our one and only date. And we remained friends for a while, but it was really hard to go through because he felt very responsible. Like he could have done something, even though he couldn't have, to protect. And it's just a natural instinct, I think. So it was hard in that way. And just in learning my challenges, I mean, as you're recovering and learning how to do things differently, driving was really hard. Just doing the things that we take for granted. If you cover your eye and try and operate like that for half an hour or 10 minutes even, you know, how different it is. And the things that you have to maybe pay a little more attention to and do differently to not injure yourself or, I don't know, maybe not injure yourself, but I mean, it's just doing things, learning new ways to do new things. Driving has probably been the hardest thing, you know? But little by little, it was probably the hardest thing in my single life that I probably have ever gone through. But you know, it had great benefits in the end. I learned that looks weren't the most important thing. There's much more things more valuable in life than that. And I think maybe where I was with my age, it was just where I was. You know, I wasn't a vain person. I wasn't snotty or snooty or anything like that, but it was important to me to feel like I looked nice. And I just didn't feel like that. I didn't think anybody would ever like love me and like I would never date again. I thought, who would want me? You know, who could look at me? Who would want this? And then lo and behold, I mean, you know, I did get married, had 3 kids, and even though that didn't work out, my high school sweetheart came back into my life, and we ended up back together, and now we're a family, and it's been really great.
How would you assess your confidence level? Like, I'd imagine that was one of the most unconfident moments of your life when you had to look at yourself in the mirror and you didn't see who you thought you were. Where has your confidence level come over the years then? Are you consider yourself to be a confident person now at this point in your life? And I'm sure you weren't back then.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it just over time, you know, you gain it and you realize that, you know, that wasn't the most important thing and that there's much more to me than that. You know, I do have a brain. I can think for myself. I can make good decisions. You know, just affirmation from others. And I mean, I'm beautiful because God made me who I am. You know, inside and out, and I have to accept that. And we're always harder on ourselves than what we should be. And you know, I was really hard on myself back then, but I'm not anymore. You know, I do the best that I can to be the best person that I can be. I take good care of myself the best way that I can. You know, try to make good choices and just live a good life in that way. And you know, it shows. You know, you're more happy on the outside when you're happy on the inside.
One of the other things that I know I've never talked to you about, and this wasn't even a part of my life, and I don't even know how old you were, but you lost your mother at a relatively young age. And I don't even know when that was in your life.
I was 12.
You were 12, okay.
12. Yeah, she was, she got sick, and she was sick for about 1.5 years. All kinds of different things. It went from a muscle spasm to her body reacting to medications to help with the muscle spasm, and everything she did or took, she reacted in an adverse way where it had just impacted her life. And in the end, after 1.5 years of battling different illnesses, and she just struggled with a lot of pain, her body just shut down. And we don't really have a clear answer. We didn't push it further to see what the actual cause of death was in the end with an autopsy or anything like that. But she, you know, she had, it was like arrhythmias and different issues with her blood that we don't fully understand that were on her death certificate. But I was just 12 and my mom was my best friend. And it was really hard to be that age. And I mean, she was literally in and out of the hospitals for 1.5 years. And the last hospital she was at was the Mayo Clinic. And that's where she died. And of her several weeks there, my sister and I were only able to see her one time in that. We'd talk with her on the phone and things like that, but it was very traumatic. And it's still very hard at times to think about it without crying.
Do you try just not to think about it? Or I guess, like I guess we shared grandparents that passed away about 10 years ago. And other than that, and my other grandpa, people in my family, I guess I've individually been fortunate. Like your mother is in my family, but I wasn't born yet. So I don't know. I never knew her. So I feel like I haven't had to deal with that family wise, and grandparents dying later in life for regardless of the reason. It's like, that's close enough to the natural process, but to be 12 and losing your mother, my mom's whatever age now, and she's still going strong for years. I don't know what that's like at all, Sandy.
Yeah. Well, it was really hard. I mean, I missed her terribly, and no, Dad did the best that he could, and she was sick for a long time. So between my sister and I, and our grandma and other family members, they would help out, kind of pseudo moms, I suppose, and making sure things were done and just help us. But we did a lot for ourselves. My mom was very much a perfectionist and always on top of everything. And she was.
Sounds like you got that trait.
I did, good or bad. But she was beautiful and she was fun and she just enjoyed life. She really did. And to not have that was really hard. To not have her be present in that way. And it was an empty void for a really long time. And there are many days I think about her. And, I still remember hearing and walking into the house, hearing that she wasn't with us anymore. And it was a really hard time. And like speaking with your dad and her other brothers, learning about her in ways that we didn't know of her when she was younger and growing up as a teenager and even early married, and hearing from other family members just the kind of person she was that we didn't know at the time. It's been really fun, and come to find I'm very much like my mother, in looks, in mannerisms, personality. I mean, there's just similar things that we have learned through her brothers that, oh, your mom did that. That's how she turned her head. That's how she said that. Or, when my sister and I are together, it kind of feels like she's right there with us. And it's very fun. Your dad had shared something with me one time when we were together about how when he's with us, like my sister and I, he just feels like my mom is right there. It's just part of him, and how he could see her and our kids, which is crazy, because they've never met her and they only know of her through us. And just, it's so fun because I want to know more about her. I want to know how she was and what she was like. And I remember those first 12 years. I mean, we'd dance in front of the living room mirror and we'd, go fishing with Dad on the boat. And she was the one that would be in the bathing suit, sunbathing and not fishing because she'd rather do that. She was just very fun in that way. Very, I don't know. She was just incredible. I loved the 12 years I had with her, and I loved hearing memories from her brothers, and my dad about her and other family members, friends of the family that knew her. It's just been fun in my later years hearing what people would say about her and my dad and just what she was like growing up. I mean, it's just really fun to hear about her life and the kind of person that she was. But it's been really hard to not have her. My kids will never get the benefit of being with their grandma in that way. And my dad did remarry, a really wonderful woman who's got the biggest heart in the world and who was never married herself or had kids. So we have met her kids for, 35, 36 years. And as loving and as wonderful as she is, it's still not your mom. And she knows that. And, we love her, but, it's just been really hard. And I just wish that she were still here, but I know that, I have a lot of her in me, and that makes me really happy. So, and I really appreciate that. So.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And her name was
Sharon.
Sharon.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never got the fortune of meeting her, but I know other like older people in the family, obviously, just wonderful things always to say. So at least, I mean, you had the 12 years that have obviously impacted the way you are and have made you and your sister and just, I guess, everyone that comes after you. She's still part of you. It's just,
yes,
just that
she is.
Yeah, obviously the the moment in time where it's cut off from memory, and you kind of work with what you have. And I guess that's life in some ways. Unfortunately, I don't think as humans we're going to find a way anytime soon to not have that happen sometimes to some people. It's just, I guess I'm fortunate that I haven't had that. And I don't know if unfortunate is the right word for you, but you obviously have had a different journey from that point forward that I can't experience. But I know some people listening probably have things that they can relate to, and some others probably have never thought about what that would be like. It's just our different journeys that we all have.
Yeah, it was really hard. I mean, it's something that obviously makes you stronger, and going through times like that. I mean, I had some really difficult times. Because we were so close. I mean, there was a time recently, right after she passed away, where I just wanted to be with her, and I would do whatever I could to be there. And I was telling one of my girlfriends that, and she had told her dad, and we told my dad, and my mom had a lot of medications and things in the house that could easily have, really done damage to somebody if you took too many, obviously. And I just thought that would be my ticket out. And I was so close to just doing that. I never did, but I hit a really low spot at that age. I mean, I probably was 12 yet, and maybe 13. And I just wanted to be with her. That's it. I just missed her so terribly. And, but because of a friend who told her dad, who told my dad, I mean, nothing happened, thankfully, but, it was a real good, coming together of my dad and I during that time as well. And realizing the depth, it's hard because everybody grieves in their own way. And as a dad who's single, how do you relate to two girls, in their teenage years and help them through such time? And, and you work it through step by step. And when Gloria came into our lives, she was a really big help to us as our stepmom. And, we made it through. And my sister and I got closer a lot because of it and have remained close in that way. And we've kept our relationship with her brothers close as much as we can with time, your dad and her two other brothers, which we just treasure, because it's fun to be together and hear things about each other and the things that they did. And it just makes her seem like she's right there.
Let's talk about something more positive. And I don't know what I don't even, as I enter this next transition, but let's switch it back away from that. I mean, there's positivity in the fact that she's such a big part of your life, but I'm sure clearly it's this endless sadness that you would have liked to have her longer. So at this point in your life, what are some of the things that you look at and think, this is just really great in my life and makes me happy to be here and doing whatever it is that you're doing? What besides the running, what else do you think that you have going for you in any special way?
I have 3 grandkids, which I love. I love being a grandma, and
do you like being called grandma?
I do.
Okay.
And when they can say it for the first time, it just lights your world.
I bet it does.
Or I love you, or all those fun things. But I love being a grandparent. We have 2 granddaughters and a grandson, and they're 1, 2, and 3. And I love spending time with them. I love the fact that I'm married to my high school sweetheart. We will be married 10 years this year, which will be great. And it's been a learning curve. When you blend families, it's different. But I love my boys. I have 2 boys and my 3 daughters, and I think we make a great family, and with their significant others. And I love family. And to me, when we can get together, planned or unplanned, all of them at once or a couple at a time, I mean, to me, that fills me up. I mean, that's just really makes me happy. And together, my husband and I with the kids, I mean, it just makes us both extremely happy just to spend time with them. Whether it be a quick conversation or, an afternoon of games or hanging out, whatever it is. And I love that they love to come over, they come home. And I can know not every parent has that. And we just appreciate the fact that our kids want to come here and they want to be with us, and whether it be to talk or to play games or whatever, share a meal. Those things make me the happiest. And seeing them grow and flourish.
And I'm sitting at your house right now as we record this, and I guess one of your daughters is is in the home, but not in, I guess, the vicinity of where we're sitting at this moment, but with two of you and 5 kids and significant others and grandkids, how often is someone here, and how often do you and Burdell, your husband, just kind of have the place to yourself, essentially?
Rare that we have the place to ourselves, because my mother-in-law lives with us as well, and then Maddie and her son Eli. But there's usually always somebody around, one place or another, but we all have our space. Which
is kind of the purpose of this relatively large house.
It is, yes.
Be able to handle that and give space for everybody that needs it.
Yeah, and I mean, when we do, obviously, the holidays and things, we're all here, but, usually once a week or once every other week, 1 or 2 are stopping by, and whether it be just a quick hello and hang out for half an hour to an hour, or we have a meal or whatever, but it's fairly regular, which I really enjoy. But we're really never alone very often. So we leave, we'll go for drives or go do different things. But everyone has their own schedule, so we're not always here all at the same time, I should say. And if we are, everyone has their space. So, you can still have your quiet time in whatever room you want to be in while others are here.
I think at this point we'll transition into my personal growth segment. I feel like there's a lot more things that we haven't talked about yet, and maybe some of them will come into some of your personal growth or later the being wrong. I don't know exactly how that'll go. That's up to you. But as I told you and asked you if you want to do this with me, I think maybe just yesterday I sent you the note of really see if you can focus your thoughts on personal growth. Are there things that you're doing now or you've done recently that you find have really helped you grow in whatever ways that you feel like you needed to grow, that maybe you sharing might be useful to me or to anyone that might be listening?
I think just over the years, I've learned to, I'm a very others-focused type person. I'm very much want to be helpful.
Are you a people pleaser, Sandy?
Yes, I would say.
Yes,
I'm more of a Mary than a Martha. No, I'm sorry. I'm more of a Martha than a Mary. But I love spending time with people. I can be very quiet, but I can be extremely social all at the same time. I've just learned to focus, and as I've gotten older, things in life certain things have gotten more important than others, like caring so much what other people think, choosing to have more quiet time because I like to be busy and not sit down, and very much a doer and just keep going type person. I've learned that it's important just to take that time, whether it be to sit with your husband or your grandkids or by yourself or read a book or whatever you need, just to spend time just more quiet. You don't always have to be doing something, and your body needs that rest. Your mind needs time to shut down just a little bit and just focus on what's really important. I mean, everyone in life goes through different situations with their family and friends and personal, and when you have something happen, you really reevaluate what you do. And I lost my dad in December. My husband went through heart surgery in December and in March. And those are very difficult times to go through. And it really makes you think again, about purpose and what you want to do, and valuing friendships, valuing family. And even though you might not want to do something, making the choice to do it because you know that maybe that someone else needs that time with you. You don't know how your time with that person might impact them. Versus trying to keep on your schedule and get the things done that you want to do and that sort of thing. Just to sit back and really think about things and take the time that's needed for whatever it might be, whether it be spending time with someone or you just needing quiet time, to think about things, or, my husband and I just going for a drive and just having time together. Those things you may think that you have them every day, but they can in a blink of an eye be gone. And going through what we did in December with my dad and my husband, it just made you really rethink the things that you do. And, it's okay not to do everything that was on your list for that day, because you should be spending your time in another way. And I've just done more of that. And it's been a lot more freeing to live a life that way than always be so goal and task oriented about things. and just let things go that don't really need to be done. You may think that they need it, but for something as simple as doing the dishes or cleaning your house. I mean, yes, they're important, but it might be more important to take time to go do something else, to go for a walk or just to sit in a quiet place, just finding whatever it is that you need to do that would make it more important for you to spend that time doing another activity. That's been really big to me because it's not, being a perfectionist is very hard and it has a lot of negatives to it. And living life the way I am now is a whole lot more beneficial and freeing.
Yeah, I've never been the one to feel the need to clean everything all the time. I think maybe because my mom is kind of the perfectionist with the house,
yes,
that it's probably a long-term curse to me that she couldn't stand things being untidy. So she would pick up after me more than she probably should have, which means that I do pick up after myself, but just not with the sense of urgency as someone like you probably do or she does. So things get a little messier behind me, and I don't worry about it. I don't know, but that's a curse, but also maybe a blessing that I don't focus on those things so much and can focus on other things. But those other things I focus on aren't necessarily any more important or useful than cleaning up after myself constantly or whatever else. And just recently in the podcast, I had one of my friends, Brian, on, and he was talking about OCD, and that some people have OCD like that and other OCD issues, but we have all these different ways of handling the situations. Mm-hmm. But it sounds like through some major life events, you've been able to put aside some of the things that maybe just became a greater focus than you ever realized they needed to be.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%.
A question I sometimes ask in this segment is, what is the biggest challenge in your life right now? What would you say is the biggest challenge that you are dealing with or facing or preparing to face? Does something come to mind when I say that? I didn't throw that at you any earlier, so this would be totally top of mind.
So I don't have anything I would say challenging that I'm preparing for. We've just had a lot of challenges within our family. Personally, I don't have the challenges, but with my husband, that has been our challenge, and just getting him healthy after an unexpected heart surgery, and just finding our way through that and getting him healthy so we can live the life that we have wanted to together, because it has setbacks. And so I don't really have any huge challenges. I really don't. I mean, so I don't know.
I like what you told me prior to us recording also. I didn't know that you had gone on this cruise that you'd went on, but I knew like months ago, one of the last times I was in your home, you were planning this big trip for this year, for your 10th anniversary year, and you decided to go to Hawaii. So you're planning to go to Hawaii. Was that in January? That was the plan?
That was January. We were going to go for 2 weeks, and we were really excited. It would be our 10-year anniversary this year, and I was turning 50, or am turning 50. And we were very much looking forward to it. And then in November, we found out my husband had E. coli, which led to a lot of other health-related issues. And he needed to have surgery to have his gallbladder out. And he didn't pass the pre-op and found out he had a heart issue. And we went through the steps to figure out where he was at with that. And within 10 days, he had, bypass surgery, and our world just got rocked just a little bit. And we had to postpone the trip and in order for Burdell to have the surgery he needed and for him to get healthy. And then he had another surgery in March. They had to cut his sternum again and replate him, which was very significant. It was supposed to be just a quick in and out surgery, tightening up wires, and it ended up having to cut him open and literally put $20,000 worth of hardware in his chest to tighten everything up. And we were both so beyond everything with stress and just dealing with all the health issues that he was having and with my dad passing. And we just decided that we wanted to go on a vacation. So we just, in a matter of a couple of days, we decided we're leaving.
And I love the spontaneity of that, the realization that this is just too much. Let's get away as best we can. But you didn't get away for just a couple of days. You went for a week.
We did. And it was amazing. And it was just us completely disconnected from pretty much everything. And it was just a really nice time for us just to regroup, because life does get to be too much sometimes, and stepping back. And we did it by taking a vacation, but I mean, I guess however someone would feel they would need to step back just to regroup, just for your own sanity's sake. We just really needed that time, and we were just able to make it happen. And it was a very positive thing for us.
Yeah, I'd hope that we all can learn a lesson. You probably learned a lesson from that. Was that the right answer at that time?
That was the right answer at that time. And to just step back and that was the good choice to make.
And are there
for
things
us.
that you kind of had to do in that week on short notice? You decided, you know what, it's either it's going to get done later or it's not getting done, but it's not going to be more important than us getting away.
We did what absolutely had to be done, in preparing to go, in that short period of time that we had, and we just left. And that was just it. We just up and left. And spontaneity is not anything that I ever do. So it was very unexpected, but it was very needed. And we came back better for it.
That's good. I really love that aspect of the story, because it's something I think I've been kind of forgetting to do lately. Like, I've really had this focus on travel for the last few years and just going and kind of leaving everything behind. And this podcast has been the thing that's kind of been on my schedule every week, and I keep doing it, and I'm happy to do it. And it's brought me together in different ways with people that I wouldn't otherwise be together with. But it makes me think this when you say it, at some point, maybe I should just skip a week and go do something else, because no one's going to really miss it that much. And then the next week I can come back. So that I've been so kind of addicted to not skipping a week that there may be a week somewhere where I decide, you know what, I'm going to go enjoy this week and not have this responsibility on myself for a week. So that if that happens, it'll be because Sandi's influence here today.
Well, and it's important to just take the time that you need, and goals are important, but sometimes you just have to step back and, because I get it. You don't want to miss a day or a week or whatever, but sometimes it's okay. And you have to not be hard on yourself. Just take that break.
And I did, as people have been listening the whole time. I had a friend and a podcast guest. My friend Josh had passed away shortly after recording with him. And that next week I was on a cruise and I didn't. I'm like, okay, I'm not doing a podcast this week. It doesn't matter. And that was obviously a big thing that happened. That was a really good reason to not emphasize the importance of putting out an episode. But I think I probably don't need such big traumatic reasons to not pull it out. I probably should just, at some point, just kind of take a little break if I need it. I don't need it right now, but I feel like I'm kind of addicted to not giving up the streak that I'm on.
Well, I'm very proud of you for what you're doing, because not everybody could do this.
I'm trying something, and I really do hope that there's something good coming from all these episodes, and I can see, just hearing your story and some of the things that you've overcome and grown from and learned from. I feel like just having this conversation with you is good for me, and maybe for someone that's listening to us right now. And now, Sandi, let's move on to my being wrong segment. Is there, when I proposed this idea, something that you were wrong about? Is there something you can look back on your life now and say, the way I used to do this, the way I thought about this was wrong, and the way that I do it now is much better?
I kind of have something, and it sort of falls along the guidelines within that. But my biggest, I guess, my thing is now, hindsight, that, when I was a young mom, 3 girls, was working, busy with life as most young moms are. I always, and being that perfectionist, gotta have the house in order, gotta have dinner ready. I work nights, was home with the girls during the day, but not taking enough time for them, not sitting on the floor, playing with them, letting things go that can wait, always, they didn't have to be done, but I felt like they did. Sometimes I really feel that was a wrong choice, to put the things, ahead of sitting on the floor and playing with my kids. I mean, I homeschooled them for several years, so we had that time when they were a little bit older, but just taking that time. I mean, if they had friends over, great. They could play and that sort of thing, then I didn't have to worry about it and I could clean my house or blah, blah, blah. But to me, I regret not spending more time with my kids, whether it be at the playground, on the floor, at the table, or whatever it is, doing whatever activity. I wish I would have done more of that. And I mean, my kids are not bad because I didn't. I mean, they didn't struggle because I didn't, but knowing that I could have valued that more, that makes me upset.
Is it somehow related to recognizing this now with your grandkids that made you realize that you didn't do enough of that with your own kids?
I think in some extent it has, and because I've been telling my kids, really, you want to have a balanced focus. It's not all about the kids because you have to still, there has to be a good balance in there. But it's just so important to have that time because as we get so busy in our schedules with whatever we're doing with work, being at home parent, whatever you're doing, sports, things with your kids, whatever, having that connection time, whether it be having a meal together or having story time or talk time, just being them focused for even 5 minutes. It's all about them because so many kids nowadays get so lost in the shuffle of life because parents are busy working and they have their schedules with whatever activities that they're in. They don't have that come together time. And I mean, there's so many things out there nowadays. Have a meal together, take that quality time. And it's so true. And there's so many times I wished I would have had more of it. And now as my kids are adults, I mean, and they know that I wished I would have, and I've said to them, I wish I would have just stopped what I was doing and spent more time with you. Even though we were all in the home and present, we weren't doing that, whatever it was together. But as adults, I really appreciate the relationships I have with each of my kids, the girls and the boys, and the times that we've had talks and done activities together, whatever it is. And I value that so much. And if they want to spend time with me and they want to talk to me, I will make time because it's not always that they want that. And I value that so much now. And I don't ever want to think that I didn't spend the time that I needed to with my kids or they needed me. And I'm saying I'm too busy. I don't ever want that. And I don't ever want them to feel like they're not important. But in all of that, you still have to keep a balance because it's, you have to have a healthy balance in all of that because some people have their kids, they go all the way and it's just all about them and there's nothing else but that. And so there's a balance in between there that people in general need to find. But I just found I wished I would have done it more early on and it would have been more of a practice from early on through the adult years versus having more of it now than I did then. I mean, I homeschooled, we were together all the time and we were busy, but that's not spending quality time. And even relating that to my husband, spending quality time with him and our time together. Now we're empty nesters and we have a different kind of life, and learning what that life is has been a challenge in some ways. Finding who we are as us and not how we are as we identify through our kids and with our kids and all of that. And so those have been some learning things that I wish had been different then, now, and just being more present in that way, if that makes sense.
The way that I look at life, you couldn't have done it any differently back then because you didn't have that realization yet in the same way.
Right.
But what at least you can do is realize it now.
Yes.
Share your thoughts so that someone that is at that point in their life or will be in that point of their life might be able to take your advice and do things a little bit differently or better than they might have done, and you can leave an impact in that way, and your daughters can hear your advice on that and perhaps do it. And then you also, with your grandchildren, can approach that in a way that you'll feel is more valuable than a way maybe you might have done it previously before you've had that thought.
Right.
So
right.
It's a very good thing to remember. And in this day and age, with all of our gadgets that are so distracting, I can see why it's so hard because we all fall into these bad habits, even with just our cell phones alone or anything else that we have that draws our attention away from the people in our lives. I was in a restaurant the other day and I just looking around, there was two people sitting at the booth, just like I probably would with somebody else, and they're both just staring at their phones. And you see this everywhere, and I do it too, but just in that moment, I observed it in a different way. It's like, wow, is this why they came out to eat? And I just hope I can place that back onto my own life. And if I ever have kids, to make sure that that's not what's happening when I'm sitting down and they're willing and wanting to play with me and I'm distracted in some other way.
Right. And it's hard because it's just the way society is now. That is, I mean, it's the gadgets, it's the phones, it's whatever it is that you're doing. And I mean, I know when we have the grandkids here, and even when my kids are here, I just try not to be on my phone. You know, I mean, there are times if you're expecting something, whatever, but, and just disconnect in that time. And it makes such a difference. Or when we go out to dinner, try not to be on our phones, you know, just so we can have that talk time or stare at each other if nothing else, you know, but just not be connected in that way, to social stuff.
And the cruise, I think you or Burdella mentioned prior to us turning on the recorder, the cruise is a great way, usually, depending on how you approach it with their Wi-Fi options. If you don't buy any additional services for your cell phone, when you're in the middle of the sea or the ocean, wherever you're at, your phone is useless. And that is an amazing thing to not have it be an option. Because once it's not an option, you can easily forget about it. But when it's an option, I think that's kind of where the struggle is.
And I think that was one of the biggest things with our cruise. It was just nice to completely disconnect. Nobody could really reach us unless it was an emergency. It just wasn't there. And it was the most relaxing, refreshing. I mean, I can't remember when it's been so nice. So it's we all need to take time like that.
Good. Well, thank you for sharing your stories, Sandi, and your messages and your thoughts. I think there's a lot there that was useful for me to hear, and I just appreciate you offering that up to the People I Know Show audience. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to People I Know Show. Links are in the show notes for the People I Know Show Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube accounts. Please, when you go to those pages, subscribe or like or whatever it does, to help remind you to check back in the future. Anywhere you can leave a comment or a review on one of those pages, or Apple Podcasts, anywhere else that you might find, please do so. I'd like to know what you like about the show. And if there's anything that you think I could be doing differently or better, I'd be happy to learn that as well. So please reach out through social media, or you can always send an email to me, Curt Carstensen, using the email address peopleiknowshow@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.